What's going on, Squash Man? Unspoken Reviews back again with another video, guys. And today we're going to be doing a spoiler-filled review of episode 1 of the new DC show, Lanterns. All right, guys. So before I go any further, you guys just heard I am going to be speaking spoilers. So if you haven't had a chance to watch the episode, turn off the review, go check it out because it is definitely worth the watch. Then come back and let me know if your thoughts align with mine. All right, guys. So I got to let you know this has been my most anticipated show of the year. This is the DC project that was announced years ago that I could not wait to watch. You know, we haven't had a real a live action Green Lantern show or Green Lantern type of property in years, ever since back towards the Ryan Reynolds. I'm not really going to count the things we've seen in Stargirl or the things that we saw in Arrow. I mean, an actual Green Lanterns focused TV show or movie. And I'm glad that we finally got that with this show. I'm glad because the Green Lanterns are such an iconic group, extremely powerful, so much depth to them. And, you know, I could not wait to see what they did with this. And I like that they named it Lanterns. It isn't just about the Green Lanterns. It could be potentially about other lanterns if we're lucky, based on what I've heard. But I just am very glad to see that the Green Lanterns are getting a little bit more love. I know that we got Guy Gardner during the Superman film. And with this series, we get an in-depth look at Hal Jordan as well as the training of John Stewart as he has been slated to take over the ring from Hal Jordan for whatever reason that may be. All right, guys. So in preparation for this show, I got to tell you, I was eating really good when it came to DC Lantern stuff. I mean, not only was I reading some of the comics, I was also watching Emerald Knights, Beware My Power, as well as Green Lantern First Flight, as well as anything that was about the Green Lanterns in some way. So whether or not it was on Justice League or Justice League Unlimited or even on Young Justice, I was just very excited to see the Green Lanterns and everything that they do. And so I was just trying to keep myself as busy as possible. When we found out that Aaron Pierre was going to be John Stewart, I was extremely excited. A lot of people were calling for him to be John Stewart ever since he did the film Rebel Ridge. Everybody was like, that right there is John Stewart. And then when we found out he got cast as a role, I, for one, was super excited because the guy is awesome in everything he does. And I just knew he would do a great job. Kyle Chandler as Hal Jordan, great casting. I gotta say right now, the energy he brings to the character, the comedy he brings to the character is peak Hal Jordan as anyone would expect it to be. So all of the casting for us, these two stars is perfect. And I'm glad to see not only the fact that they do well on, you know, on screen, they have a real nice kinship off screen as well. So everything just kind of blended together in the way that they do this show. All right, guys. So the way the episode plays out and the way that the series is supposed to play out is that this kind of spans over 3 time periods: one in 1996, one in 2016, and one in 2026. Now, for 1996, the show opens up with a young John Stewart, and we see that he's watching the footage of Hal Jordan as he's finally announcing himself as Green Lantern to the world. Pretty interesting because I think back in 1986, he would have become Green Lantern, and he's kept it quiet for about 10 years. Mind you, he is the Lantern of Sector 2814, which means that he covers a vast array of planets. It's not just Earth. It goes to show exactly why he's kept it quiet for so long. I think they said that it was a meteor that was about to crash land into the planet, and he intervened and decided to let people know who he was. Keep in mind, this means that he came way before Superman. He's one of the first few superheroes to really announce himself. I'm pretty sure he's not the first. If they do announce that Justice Society has been a thing, then he won't be the first. But I think it's kind of cool seeing that this Green Lantern is the very first one to announce himself in this age of heroes. And we see that young John is a big fan of Hal. He likes to watch him on screen. You see how much he's smiling. He pretty much views him as a hero. And I like that. I like how he's trying to watch TV and his brothers are telling him to turn it off because his dad, John Sr., is on the way. But he does not care. He just really wants to watch everything that Hal says and understand exactly what it is that he does. When John Sr. does show up, we see that he is a Marine, and it seems like you can tell the energy just switches off the moment he walks in the door. You can tell this man is no nonsense with the way he raises his boys. And he does ask John about what his name is, and John answers it's Hal something. And he says how, like the way he says it, like I have a theory about John's dad the way that he's responding, I do feel like a little bit of racism in there somewhere, and I'll let you know what I mean when we get back to it. But he takes his son outside and he shoots an apple off his head. And if you pay attention to the shed, there are multiple shots there. And if you see the way that they're lined up, it goes by height. So at this point in time, I believe John is about 10 years old, 10 or 11. So he would have been having this done since the time he was 6, maybe 5. But his dad has been doing this to him, and he constantly asks him, "Are you afraid?" He says no. He shoots the apple. I like how this is it's really rough as a parenting thing, but something tells me that his father has much more deeper plans in mind, what we see on the screen right away. I do believe that if I'm guessing right, that at some point John said he wanted to be a Green Lantern. And I think his dad doesn't like the idea of him seeing a white man as a hero. So we do cut to 20 years later in 2016 as John is tagging up a bag and Hal returns after being gone for 2 weeks. I mean, dude just left him on world for 2 weeks to go off to another planet to try to deal with the Civil War. It seems that he was able to settle the situation and fix it with some diplomacy and a little bit of violence. But you can definitely see the tension between the two of them. And I like how that's built up. And it makes sense that John would be upset. He really does believe in a certain level of order, and seeing the way Hal kind of goes off the books and does his own thing without any regard for him or even training him, you can kind of already see right off the bat that John is not getting a fair shot the way that he wants. Hal doesn't care about that at all. And John is still pushing to say, hey, I haven't used the ring yet. And we get the iconic scene from the first couple of trailers that we got from the show where he leaves the ring inside the car and dives out. Completely wild, man, but completely Hal Jordan. But John is able to use the ring as fast as he can and form bubble wrap around himself. And I like that. That was pretty funny. It was something that was just kind of on the fly, but it worked for protecting him. The other thing we do see is that Hal is still considered very much a celebrity. Everybody knows who he is as Green Lantern. People are rushing to take pictures with him at this taco truck. And it just goes to show how much people remember him as a hero. So John does end up making his way back to the taco stand that Hal has told him about. And he does end up calling his father. And this is the part with the racism that I was talking about. John Sr. says they're allowed to throw tantrums. We are not allowed to do that. I think he means by the white man is able to act like that, but we are not able to do that. That's why I do believe that John Sr. is willing to train his son to be a lantern. He only wants him to do that because he doesn't like seeing John idolize a white man as a hero. But despite all this, throughout all the years, John has maintained the idea of wanting to be a Green Lantern. He's wanted this all his life. I'm very interested in how he says that the Guardians chose him to be a Green Lantern, because that's not how it works in the comics. It is the ring that chooses you to be the bearer. John is talking about the Guardians telling him he's supposed to be training him. He even tells him the ring has to choose you. And that's usually how it goes. You have to be chosen by the ring itself. We do get a pretty awesome scene, as you guys don't realize that the rings are completely sentient, as they not only are able to give the wearer a certain level of knowledge, they're also able to take knowledge from the person and store it, much like kind of like a video journal. As John messes with the ring, there is a recording that Hal has inside the ring that is much younger Hal Jordan, and he seems very much a little bit more nicer than the one that John is dealing with. Meaning much more younger, much more open, much more caring. And he leaves a message with John to tell his younger self that there's hail in Nebraska. And when John does go to him, Hal immediately flies off. He doesn't even think twice, immediately soars off in the air, not even thinking to bring John with him at all. And it's crazy because now John has to pretty much get on a flight and go halfway across the country just to find Hal, just to figure out where he's at, just to meet up with him. And it's completely messed up. Like, the idea that he's pushing his training in a way like that. I mean, I understand how Hal's treating him, but he's doing it almost in a way to see if he can get John to quit, pushing him to that point, which is not something I haven't seen, especially in the Emerald Knights movie. That is the way the first trainer was teaching Kilowog and Omar Ray, as well as a few other Lanterns. Like, he was pushing them to the point where they don't quit. So I feel like this is kind of in sync with what he needs to do, because this is the mentality that a Green Lantern needs to have. So when they do arrive at the school, We see the banter between them is still real. John notices that there's something wrong on the field. People were attacked. However, Hal believes that there are aliens that are part of this. That kind of leads them to meeting Sheriff Carey. Now, Carey Kane is pretty much a no-nonsense sheriff. It seems that there is possibly a history between the two, between her and Hal, but nothing that I can really spell out, not the way that the show puts it out there. But it just kind of feels like they know each other in a sense, because the way Hal kind of talks about her, either he has run into her once before or he has known about her and she's known about him. She's not really excited about having a superhero on the scene because she doesn't want that kind of attention. She kind of wants to just get this quietly done, but Hal is adamant that aliens are involved. And until she can verify that, she's not going to trust him. John does clock one of the sweatshirts from one of the fans watching the game has been ditched, and that means there's a shape-shifting alien somewhere on the field. He spots it. He does take it to the sheriff, but she herself has already clocked it. So it means that in some way, either she has had knowledge of dealing with this before, or she has just learned what to look out for. Because in order for her to catch onto that quickly, she would have to know, one, that either the guy has stood out a wrong way or he has done something based off of some of his injuries, if he has any, to know that he does not belong. However, the guy does make a break for it, and John does end up catching him. Despite this, the two of them are not able to interrogate him. However, Hal does have a very good idea of getting himself arrested in order to get closer to the prisoner. Once again, very Hal Jordan, that is something that he does. So it's at this point that we do get the comic book origins for Hal Jordan as how he gets the ring. And I like that the show does maintain the actual accurate comic book origins, as he does meet Avensor as the ring does come find Hal and bring him to meet him. And I like that. I like that the show decided to keep with the comic origins. I'm glad to see that there are at least some things that are still staying the same in the DCU as we've come to know them with the characters. I think that's really important for a lot of fans out there. I know the show has switched up a little bit. I do realize that John Stewart's father was not involved in his life in the comics, so it's a little bit different. I guess they're trying to change up some minor things here and there, but it's okay. I think they're still trying to use some of the quote-unquote racism aspects for John Stewart's character with the way his father operates. So it's kind of working, and it works for, you know, exactly the way it needs to work for Hal's character, and it works the way it needs to do for John's character. We do find out that there are a lot of aliens that are actually been known to be on Earth, actually. This is not a shocking thing, as we do find out as Hal gets arrested, he has to meet up with the Macon family, as Billy Macon, who is the husband of Sheriff Carey, decides to represent him and help him get out of jail, and also while also paying off his fines, which does not come cheap, as he has to work with the Macon family to discover the aliens, which the Macon family is very much aware of. Now, we did hear from the trailer this season would center around the Manhunters as an antagonist. I do think there's going to be more of an antagonist than them. If you guys aren't aware of what Manhunters are, they are these kind of robotic creatures that the Guardians first designed to help keep order in the universe. However, they lacked the type of emotional spectrum that they need to understand the creatures that they're dealing with, so they would just kill off anyone who would break any kind of laws. This forced the Guardians to backpedal and take the Manhunters out, and instead they created the Green Battery, which allowed them to start the Green Lantern Corps. The Manhunters, I guess, are still around the universe, still causing trouble, and may be potentially on this planet. Now, I'm not exactly sure of the other alien races involved. I do believe that this may have to do with some Martians as well. I'm going to explain why I believe that is. But at this point in time, we only understand that the Manhunters are somewhat of an antagonist. So Hal does get his opportunity to interrogate the suspect that they caught. And I like how the show kind of builds up on this energy that this guy is hiding something, but it's not just telling us that. Like, you know, sometimes with TV shows, we may already know things that are happening before the main characters come to find out about them. The show doesn't do that. It kind of leaves things up for skeptical idea, but when you actually get to the moment, the show kind of gives the characters the answer while also giving the audience the answer. And I like that because it allows the audience to kind of travel these situations alongside with the characters. It just kind of works out better that way. There's a moment where he's having the conversation with the guy, and it's slowly building up to this point where the alien starts to say, hypothetically, if he was an alien. And he starts kind of giving off all these little pieces about how he might be possibly a wanted fugitive, and that he shouldn't be on the planet, and that a peacekeeping organization such as the Green Lantern Corps would only start more problems if his identity was exposed. And in order to stop this from happening, the alien actually activates somewhat of a bomb inside his skeleton in order to explode. And I like how he kind of teases Hal a little bit about the Green Lantern oath, almost as if he kind of knows who Hal is and realizes that he doesn't follow it the way that he's supposed to. It's almost like he's mocking him with it. And you see the way Hal gets extremely mad about this. I also like how Hal interrogates him. He kind of uses certain knowledge of Earth that he should know as an individual on this planet, like what the Harry Potter films are, what school he went to, who the president of the United States is. And you can kind of tell how the alien species kind of knows certain details. Because remember, this takes place in 2016. So Barack Obama is still president at the time. But the way that the alien speaks about it is almost like he's reading from a Wikipedia page. Like he's like reading all of the little details that seem skeptical that someone would have just planned it on a page. If you guys don't know what Wikipedia pages is, you can kind of add details to it if you want to. Like people can actually, go onto it and just add little details. Even if they're wrong, they can still put them on there. And I like how the way he's kind of speaking back to Hal and Hal catches on to it. And it is revealed that he is an alien. I like how Hal uses his ring to form a dome around him, even though he explodes to kind of keep him from destroying the whole town. Mind you, this is almost a nuclear blast, which could pretty much destroy the entire town. And he even teases Hal, telling him that he may not have enough power in his ring to stop it. I like how, despite the fact that his ring may be at 20, 25%, that's still enough power in order to contain a blast of that magnitude. It still does some damage to the sheriff jail, but it's not enough to really cause any damage to the town. It alerts the town, but it doesn't do anything to destroy anything on a major level. And it goes to show just how powerful the rings are. And I like that. I like that the show shows how powerful the rings are and the things that they can do. Like they're only limited to the user's imagination, which is why I like the fact that John Stewart is going to be taking over as Green Lantern. I can't wait till he starts using the ring. But we get to see little things like bottle openers being made, dollar bills being made, little things like that that shows the type of in-depth knowledge and will that the user has to have to create something so perfectly that you can use it in any form or fashion. I like that the way the show starts off. We also get a fast forward to 2026. As you guys do know, this does take place over 3 time periods. And we see that John does come back to the town of Rushville, Nebraska. And we see he meets up with the sheriff. And it seems that time has passed on. They do come back to the football field where everything started at, and we see the corpse of Hal Jordan. Why he's dead, what happened to him, I don't know. It does look like he suffered a gunshot wound to the head. He's wearing the exact same clothes that he wore in the beginning of this episode, so I'm not exactly sure if this is him or not. The reason I say that is because John does make a comment that there are 14 known alien species that can hide themselves from any kind of detection on Earth, whether they be X-rays, blood, anything like that. They can pretty much hide themselves from anything. There's 14 species of that. So that means there's a possibility that this that we're seeing is potentially an alien. I do believe that one of those 14 species that they're talking about could be the Martians. They're the only other ones that can transform like manhunters can. I'm pretty sure there are other ones, but they're the only ones that we know of in the DC universe. I mean, people probably know other ones, but if I'm guessing, if they decide to do a Manhunters type of thing, if the Manhunters are on Earth, they could be hunting the Martians. Earlier in the episode, Hal does make a mention that Abensor did not come to Earth by accident. Even though that Earth is part of 2814 and it's part of his sector, it is a potential that Abensor knew that there were other creatures on the planet and he was trying to protect them from the Manhunters. I do remember seeing the trailers that there was some destruction of a spaceship being crash landed on Earth. It makes me wonder if that was Abensor's ship, if we'll get an opportunity to see Hal actually get the ring. That would be pretty cool. I know in the future episodes, we're also supposed to get some of the Guardians that are supposed to talk to John Stewart. I'm hoping to get an answer as to why they did it this way as opposed to sending him the ring, because each lantern actually gets their own ring. They don't pass off rings. I don't think that that's how it goes, because I do remember Hal says that lanterns don't get trainees, because most lantern trainees are actually trained by Kilowog on Oa. So I'm wondering how different this is going to be and why they are doing it this way and what has happened to Hal. Does that mean we're going to go get a parallax later on down the line? I know Sinestro is supposed to show up. It makes me wonder if he's going to hint at the fact that Hal has been affected by parallax. We don't know. I do want to say that this is a great introduction to the series. I'm loving it so far. I cannot wait to see next week's episode. I'm not going to be doing episode by episode reviews. I'm only doing this review to let you guys know how I felt about that first episode. I hope you guys liked it. I definitely liked it, and this is definitely the step in the direction that the DCU definitely needs. I'm hoping that James Gunn is taking note, as well as I think Paramount is supposed to be getting the stuff from Warner Brothers, so they're going to be taking over. I hope they're taking notes because this is the type of level of storytelling that we're going to need. Now, granted, the show is doing great. By the next couple of episodes, it could fall off and we could be thoroughly disappointed. But so far, I'm liking what I'm seeing. I'm liking what we're expecting. I'm loving the relationship between John and Hal. I'm loving the way that Aaron Pierre is portraying John Stewart, and I'm definitely loving the way that Kyle Chandler is portraying Hal Jordan. All right, guys, that was my review of the episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.